Travel with me to visit Our Lady of Guadalupe in the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City. This pilgrimage was taken in the year 2004 over the feast days of the Immaculate Conception through the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, December 8th through 12th. That whole time from December 8th to 12th is festive, is full of activities and music and dance and processions, and you'll get to see some of that as we move forward. These three images seem to be a little smoky, but there was a great deal of incense. Plus I was using a regular camera with film, so it was not digital, and some of the pictures are not as clear. But here you can see the procession with the natives in their very, very festive gold costumes and mantles, and over here they're carrying flags and banners and dancing. Here we have the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and this is how it is portrayed now, the Tilma of Juan Diego. It is hanging in the basilica, and between these priests and that wall that the image hangs on is like a deep well, and there's a moving sidewalk that you stand on, and it takes you back and forth to view the image, as you'll see in some of the future photos. This again is the long distance shot of the altar and the wall where the image of the Tilma hangs. This image is from underneath as you travel on that moving sidewalk, and directly above the image of Our Lady is a crown, her crown, our Queen. And this is a bronze statue of Juan Diego, her little messenger. The next couple of pages are pictures of the image hanging on the wall in the basilica. And as I said, it's very, very hard to get a good, clear picture as you're on that moving sidewalk, especially without the benefit of digital cameras. Here's the crown again that hangs over her head. And here she is up hanging on the wall. For many years, the image hung unencased, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but it is now hanging in a beautiful framed, bulletproof glass protected glass that covers it so that it can be viewed by people and enjoyed and not be harmed. This large cloth that you see beneath is actually the flag of Mexico. It has the Mexican colors. This is the tip of the eagle's wing, and that's part of the eagle, that's part of the Mexican culture and their flag. So you will see that adorning this image as you see other pictures at a distance of the image of the Tilma. You'll see this banner, this flag draped in front of it. And this is a good clear shot of the red, white, and green image, the flag that sits before the image. Now we visited Mexico, as I mentioned, from December 8th to 12th, and it was well decorated. There you'll see a number of scenes and trees and buildings that are very festively decorated for Christmas and Epiphany. Epiphany is a very, very big celebration in the Southern and Central American countries. This is a group I went with from Watertown, New York mostly, and here we are out in a garden near the Basilica, and you'll see the beautiful image of Our Lady of Guadalupe here. Steps leading up to Tepeyac Hill. Beneath here, on our way to those steps, we passed by the place where they were celebrating the Feast of Juan Diego, which is December 9th. And then here is one of the older basilicas that are no longer used for the celebrations. So many people come now. You'll see pictures later of the newest basilica, but there are still several that are standing on the grounds. The images of Juan Diego opening his tilma before Bishop Zumarraga, and the image appearing on it. There it is again, before one of the older basilicas. And again, this is where they were celebrating the feast of Juan Diego. And again, the image with the crown. This is one of the clearest images of the tilma. You can see the image of Our Lady a little bit more clearly. You can see the black band that is around her waist, signifying she was pregnant. The moon that she is standing on at that time, the moon gods, the gods of the moon, were worshipped. So she showed that she was more powerful than the gods of the moon by standing on the moon. Surrounding her are the rays of the sun, and the same sort of thing. She showed that she was more powerful than the god of the sun. And with that power and the color of her tilma, which told them she was a noble person, so many wonderful things in this image that it's just incredible. But it was the one way that when she appeared and the natives there saw this image, this tilma, and they knew this was all about their history, this was all about their culture. They could see that all in this image, and that's what converted over 9 million of them in a few years to Catholicism. This is a little bit of the hustle and bustle in Mexico City. Some of the architecture, just a lot of busyness around here and down here. I loved the little Volkswagen taxis. Thought they were awfully cute. This is known as the square, and it is a square area with a large open space in the center, and it's governmental buildings. And look at the beautiful decorations they have on them for Christmas. We have the Christmas scene up in the top left, and the bottom right we have the Epiphany, the Magi appearing. So it really is a country that celebrates its faith very powerfully, even though there were times where the faith was not respected and actually people were persecuted. More of the architecture here, and this just impressed me. This is a little case of dolls and teddy bears underneath the window here. There's a window. That window that you see up above is right down here, and this little case is there with all of these animals and dolls. It's really kind of cute. What fascinated me here is these stations are built in the first picture, and they have in the top part the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. The second picture shows a peddler, someone trying to peddle wares or get wash windows as the traffic's going by, which is pretty crazy. And this is a very large sculpture, as you can see, compared to the cars, that sits in one of the main areas of their roads. Now you might not be able to see this as well, but this is a little dog with his head out the window, and he has reindeer antlers on. Kind of cute. Down here, the police at work along the side of the road here. And this is, like I said, that upper part of that station that appears in the middle of the road, almost as a separator between the northbound, southbound, or eastbound, westbound lanes. And it contains, again, the image of the Virgin of Guadalupe. This cross is amazing. This cross was on the altar before placed before the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and this was at a time when it wasn't as well protected. It was hanging there, and someone brought flowers in, but this was during the time of the persecution, religious persecution, and inside the flowers was a bomb. When the bomb exploded, this crucifix took the whole weight of that explosion, and as you can see, it bent it over backwards. And it said that Jesus bent over backwards for his mother. And so the cross is now encased in glass and placed separately along a side wall, but people just can stop by and see it. And after that is when they began to make preparations and more protection for the actual tilma. Walking up towards one of the other older basilicas, and these are some of the images you see. This is a nativity scene, and out here is Our Lady in statuary, greeting statues of the native Indians and welcoming them. And over here is just looking out at the skyline of Mexico City. Our group visited a Carmelite monastery. They knew someone who was a Carmelite sister, and I believe she was related to someone from the Watertown area. And so they came in, and this is cloistered, which is why you see the bars in front of us. Now we're in one of the older basilicas, and you can see they have a statue, a picture of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and over here on the right is the image of Juan Diego. And all of the churches, every church that we went to, had the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe in it. Again, I'm walking up the steps towards the second basilica, and you just get such beautiful views from up here. Look at how far out that city spreads. They honor the Sacred Heart, the Holy Spirit. And this is the top at that area that we just saw where we were ascending. And here you have the cross with the Sacred Heart image and the spear piercing the side of the heart. This was called the Three Ships, and it was meant to honor the Pinta Santa Maria, and I can't remember the name of the third ship that Columbus came across on. Again, looking down, and here looking up towards one of the older basilicas. We can still enter it, but they do not do the large liturgical celebrations there any longer. Here is Our Lady. And just right here, you can just see the arms of Bishop Zumarraga. And here it is a little bit clearer. Bishop Zumarraga speaking before Our Lady according to these images. And then the people, the natives, coming to honor her. I loved this church. This is San Miguel de Malagro, St. Michael of the Miracles. And this is a place where St. Michael is said to have appeared and to another Juan and told him that the spring that would spring up there would be miraculous and healing. And this is the little shed where the well is, and it has a tendency to dry out. When I was there, we actually switched with another group, and we were supposed to go on, let's say, Wednesday. We ended up going on the day before, on going Tuesday. When we got there Tuesday, the water had slowed to a trickle, but we were all able to get water. You could get these little containers. The next day, when we all had dinner together, the other group came in, and they could not get any water. The water had stopped trickling. It wasn't even trickling. The water had just stopped flowing. But being good Catholic Christians, we shared our water with them so that we all were able to get the water. But it is from this well that there have been miraculous healings. We walk in, and of course we see St. Michael the Archangel. But there's an even more fabulous statue of him, and something's very special that happens when you walk by that statue. This is the front of this wonderful image of St. Michael the Archangel, and you can see his red cape over his shoulders. Well, when you walk around behind this image, you can come up a little staircase and you walk under the cape. They have taken his cape, his mantle, and spread it out over the stairway so that you can walk under it, under the protection of St. Michael the Archangel, and go back down. Beautiful image of Our Lady in front of the statue of St. Michael, but up here you'll also notice, because many places where Mary goes, St. Michael is said to precede her or accompany her. And on top of this image of St. Michael is a statue of Our Lady, and you can see the M right there. And of course we have the image of the Sacred Heart. The Sacred Heart, there's a great devotion down there in Mexico to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. St. Joseph, of course, was present with the child Jesus, and here again is a clearer picture of just the statue of St. Michael, the front of it, and around behind it would be where we would walk out over his draped cape for his protection, and the statue of Our Lady on top of that image of St. Michael. Here's a painting that depicts St. Michael appearing to this other Juan and showing him this beautiful spring that would come forth from the ground. And over in another view from it, a different side view, you can see the people who were sick and dying, and they needed this miraculous water, this healing. So we prepare to leave this beautiful church. And in the picture on the left is again that shot of Our Lady with the picture with the statue of St. Michael behind her. And then over on the picture on the right, this is a little shrine that's set up outside at the well, that little building, where people will place petitions and candles and just ask for the protection and the help of St. Michael. Now, it's not uncommon between December 8th and 12th to see a truckload of men being driven up to Mexico City. They come up literally on bike, by the truckloads, bicycles, to be there for the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Here, of course, is some outdoor advertising. And one of the things we noticed very, very common were dogs that were around the area. And this is a group of, I would say, school children, high school children, who were throwing food out to the dog as we were driving along. This is some of the architecture that you'll see. There's still some other places that you'll see in different slides coming up. It is a different life than what we're used to. Now, a trip to Mexico wouldn't be complete without cerveza, which is beer, because they still tell you not to drink the water, although our guide told us that they actually have one of the best water filtration systems in the world now, but it just plays better, so they sell a lot of bottled water and beer when people come to Mexico. But we did all chip in together, and we had a mariachi band come in and play for us one evening. It was a lot of fun and very entertaining. We went and visited the pyramids, two of them, and this is the one that we all had the opportunity to climb. Needless to say, I did not go far. I actually got as far as Father, and I think this was Father Doug, no, Father Bob, and I went and got as far as he did, and couldn't go any further, and neither could he. The next shot will give you a little bit of an idea of the angle of this ascent. And this was just as steep coming back down. I ran into a lady who was going up, who had climbed pyramids several times and had no fear of it. And I'm like, how do I get down from here? And her suggestion was to go down backwards. So I actually did like a crawl down backwards, because I'm afraid of heights and I just could not go racing down those stairs. This is one of my favorite parts of our visit. This is the Church of St. Juan Bernardino, and this is the site where Our Lady appeared to Juan Bernardino, who was the uncle of Juan Diego, and he was the uncle who was so sick, and Juan Diego tried to avoid Our Lady so that he could go get a priest for Uncle Juan Bernardino. But Our Lady stopped him, and she said to him, "Am I not here who is your mother?" And that's something for all of us to remember. And she appeared to Juan Bernardino, and he was healed. And she also told him her name, Maria of Guadalupe. Now, the two priests that accompanied us, Father Bob and Father Doug Decker, are twins. And one of them spoke fluent Spanish. And as it turned out, there was a couple there to have a wedding anniversary celebrated. So we were able to participate in that Mass. Our priest did the Mass, and we were able to celebrate with them. It was quite enjoyable. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this beautiful image of Our Lady appearing to Juan Bernardino in just a second. So this is Our Lady appearing to Juan Bernardino. And like I said, she told him that she was Maria, the Virgin of Guadalupe, and that he would be healed, and he felt better instantly. I love this image. It is just so beautiful. The other one below it, I think I love just even more because what it said to me and how it was explained to us is that the Mexican people see Our Lady working with them in all of their daily chores. So here they are, making cloth, making thread, making cloth, making clothing, taking down, the cords, the bundle that the girl is carrying to make that into the fabric. And you see this and you think that she is with us in everything. When we go grocery shopping, when we make a meal, when we, whatever we do, she is always there with us. And when they paint their own portraits like this, their own family paintings, they paint Our Lady into them because she is that much a part of their lives. We're heading back into the city, and the crowds are piling up, waiting to get into the basilica. And again, this is still not the main basilica. Big cross here, in the middle of the journey from outside the city into the city. It's wonderful to see. More architecture. Look at these beautiful trumpeting angels in a beautiful church that we visited. And I love this angel just kind of hanging there on the side of the street, blowing his trumpet. And we have some more festive scenes coming up. Beautiful nativity scene below. Look at the characters. Beautiful fountain here. This is the Church of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and I just love this story. There was a great lightning strike out in the woods, and people went out to see the damage. And when they got to this tree, the tree had been heavily damaged by the lightning strike, but carved inside it was this wooden statue that you see over in the picture on the right. This statue right here was carved out of wood, not by man, but by God and lightning. This is a beautiful picture of the sun outside from a patio in the church. This is the church that houses the statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and outside there is a beautiful statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. What I really enjoyed was that while we were there was actually a First Communion going on. And for me, that was very special. I was 3 years into my ministry at Christ the King Church, and I just kind of felt that was a little affirmation from God about what I was doing. Little bit of the countryside here. And their lives are not like ours, at least not in the surrounding rural areas. There's a little burrow on the side of the road over here. And of course, murals and some houses that you can see set up. The churches in Mexico are absolutely stupendously beautiful. And this one, no less, up in the top right, the ceiling, if I recall correctly, all of that is real gold filigree paint and whatever. And over here, a beautiful picture of the coronation of Mary with the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And over here is Jesus in the sepulcher. Their images of Jesus are very striking, and I'll tell a story about one a little bit later that took my breath away when I saw it. Wouldn't you just love to see these scenes on the street corners down in Syracuse or Liverpool or DeWitt? Look at how amazing they are. The life-size statues, the animals, the setup. It's just awesome. And they're just on street corners in front of buildings, not necessarily in front of churches, but it's just a testimony to the Mexican people and their faith. And again, in another church or churches, is Jesus and the crowning of thorns as he sits there robed in scarlet, awaiting his carrying of the cross. Our Mother of Sorrows. It's a wonderful prayer, and hopefully you can join us sometime at 4 o'clock on our teleprayer call when we pray to Our Lady of Sorrows. It's a very powerful prayer. And another church with the Virgin of Guadalupe. These are all saints, and they're huge statues. As you can see, they're behind an altar, and there's this huge, almost like cabinet built up, full of statues of various saints in one of the churches. This is actually, we're riding on the bus, and again, just you look out and all of a sudden there's a window with all these items stacked in it, and it's just such an odd collection, always not what we're used to seeing. And just a street, in Mexico City, walking along, folks walking and shopping. The Divine Mercy is popular in Mexico also. We saw different images of it, and this one is in one of the churches. Our Lady, and again, Our Lady. Just so much. Look at these churches and look at the artwork, the painting, the architecture, everything that goes into them. They're absolutely stunning. These are three of my favorite street scenes. This lady's walking past a little shop, and you don't notice it unless you're real close up to it, but in the street, this is a green frog, big green frog with blue eyes. This is a gentleman. I don't know if he's with his children or if he's a street seller, but there's this little area out front with dedicated to Jesus and Mary. That stuff might all be for sale. Many items of Guadalupe, the head of Christ, bust of Christ. So you just see this all the way along the roads and streets there. Now this is the courtyard area in a monastery down in Mexico City. And back during the religious persecution, this is where many of the priests and religious were, and there were lookouts, and they could see if the military started coming for them. Now, there's two things about this particular set of buildings. There were the lookouts that would send some sort of alert or alarm, and people would then, the religious and the priests, be able to go into hiding. And they would hide actually in the walls. They might hide behind a painting, behind a door, or behind a window. Some way that they would get in behind the walls, and they would be safe in there until their persecutors had left. One other thing, and this is the other story I was going to mention about an image of Jesus. There was a little museum area in here, and you couldn't take pictures. But when I walked into it, there was an image of Jesus kneeling, and he was, tied to the pillar from the scourging. And as you walked around the back of it, so this was like looking at a real life-size Jesus tied to the pillar. As I walked around the back of it, you saw the bloody back, just bloodied and scourged right down to the bone. And it was just horrifying. It just sometimes we may not always think about or remember the pain he underwent for us during that scourging. And these are just some more images, Mary and the child Jesus, inside a church. This is actually a Catholic school. I believe it was St. Francis, and here's some of the children out on the steps. And again, a beautiful interior church. Look at all the gold, how they honor Mary and Jesus with this gold and this filigree and the architecture. Just beautiful. And now we've made it back to Mexico City for the feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe. You can see it's just packed full, this whole square out in front of the church, and the basilica interior is just as packed. If you look at the large cone head hats type thing here, there are jugglers tightrope walkers, clowns, and many, many ceremonial native dancers. You'll see those in the next few pictures. And just a side note here, this is someone from our group, and you'll see that he's wearing a scarf. We all had scarves, and I'm not sure we could still find each other in the crowd, but it was meant to sort of keep us together. The next three sets of slides show you many of the dancers, their costumes, the colors, how colorful they were. The one in the third picture here is playing some sort of an instrument that would look like a guitar, not quite sure if it is or if it was some other instrument, maybe a prehistoric guitar. Another set of pictures of the ceremonial dancers. This is a statue of St. Pope John Paul II, and it's made from melted down bronze keys. They asked all the people of Mexico to turn in keys, and they melted them all down, and they used them to help make this statue. He was much loved there. He went over, I think I just heard, in like 2002 for the canonization of St. Juan Diego. And of course, at that time, he was suffering heavily from Parkinson's disease, but he still went. And I believe he made a total of 5 visits overall to Mexico, to our shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe. We're inside the basilica. And of course, here's the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the Mexican flag, and all the priests that are there, bishops and cardinals, image of Juan Diego. The people come in, and many of them will be carrying pictures, and they bring these pictures in to be blessed, so they give an overall blessing to bless the pictures. They take them home. Mothers carrying babies. Many of the women and men, when they get to the basilica, will crawl across the courtyard on their knees to honor Our Lady. Here's a picture of a mom with her little child on her shoulder. The ceremonial dancers coming into the church, and some of the baskets of flowers. There had to be hundreds of baskets of flowers. The whole front of the church was filled with huge baskets of flowers. These aren't like what we go in and buy at Wegmans or Tops. These are just huge baskets of flowers that are carried in honor of Our Lady on her feast day. And finally, the final images from the ceremony. Amazingly, they did give out communion. However, where we were, I don't know if they ran out or just didn't find us, but we did not receive communion on that particular feast day. They never got back to us. So, but we received obviously a spiritual communion and many, many, many blessings. So Our Lady of Guadalupe is the patroness of the Americas, and she's the patroness of the unborn. So we continue to pray for her, for all the unborn, and we just ask for her help upon us. Hopefully you all know the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe, but just briefly, Our Lady appeared to a native convert to Catholicism, Juan Diego, and Juan Diego was asked to take a message to the bishop to build a chapel. The bishop didn't really believe him, and he had to come back 3 times. And on the 3rd time he came back to the bishop, he was carrying roses, Castilian roses, that Our Lady had placed in his tilma. The tilma is the cloak that they wear, almost like a shopping bag for us today. And when he dropped the tilma to let the roses out, Our Lady's image appeared on the tilma. The tilma's over 500 years old. It's made out of a simple cloth that should have deteriorated in about 40 years, and it's still hanging beautifully in the basilica. It's a priceless treasure. It's not paint. They can tell they've checked it so thoroughly, so many different scientific ways. This is not paint. It's only paint from the hands of God. However God applied it to that surface, it is there, and it was made by God. So the image has been there. It's been treasured by the Mexican people and by people all over the world. And we just pray for Our Lady's help to convert our country and all the hearts that need conversion, to know and love her and her son Jesus.